You may think that this past season was the first time Cleveland Cavaliers fans went crazy for their team. But back in the 70s, the pandemonium at the playoffs almost brought down the house. Roger Gordon tells this tale in his book, The Miracle of Richfield, the story of the 1975-1976 Cleveland Cavaliers. Roger joins us today to give a play-by-play recap of that very special season. So, and one of the big deals was the playoffs didn't even seem like it was going to be a possibility at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah, the Cavs got off to a slow start that year. And on Thanksgiving Day, actually, their record, I think, was 6-11. And the owner and the coach, who doubled as the general manager, Nick Milletti and Bill Fitch, they both agreed that there was one missing piece to the puzzle, and that was to find a backup center to starting center Jim Jones.
Okay.
So they got.
What did they do? What did they change?
They made a trade and got veteran Nate Thurmond, actually an Akron native, to come in and play about 17, 18 minutes a game, so they could have strong center play for the entire 48 minutes of a game. And very soon after he arrived, they started winning, and they ended up winning their division and qualifying for the playoffs for the first time.
What did he bring that was so different?
Well, he brought two things. On the court, he loved playing defense. Most guys love the offense and making the shots. He loved blocking shots, and he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was a great defensive player. And when the other young players saw how great of a defensive force he was, they started playing defense better. And then off the court, he just had an aura about him. Not just because he was 6'11". He walked in the room, and people just, you know, you knew he was something special, and everyone respected him. He had played in 2 finals. The young players knew that he'd been through the wars.
So
he was at the tail end of his career. He was
Okay.
at the tail end of his career, yeah.
Okay. And he wrote the foreword to your book, I understand.
He wrote it, but unfortunately he never got to see it because he passed away about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
So what is exactly what they call the Miracle of Richfield?
Well, excuse me, the miracle comes from their first playoff series. They played the Washington Bullets, and Washington was a veteran team who'd been through the wars, and they were favored. And the Cavaliers beat them 4-3, and 3 of their wins were in miraculous fashion down to the last second. So the Miracle of Richfield actually stems from that particular series, but over the last 40 years, when people talk about the Miracle of Richfield, they're talking about the whole season. They say the Miracle of Richfield season, even though it was really just that one series.
Okay. Do you remember?
My birthday was it fell right during that Washington series, and to this day, my brother tells me I was sleeping when they won Game 7.
No.
But the funny thing is that I remember watching Game 5 of the finals between Boston and Phoenix 5 weeks later. That was the first sporting event I ever remember watching, so I missed experiencing the Miracle of Richfield by about 5 weeks.
But you experienced it kind of vicariously by writing the book
Yeah.
down and everything. So it's I think ingrained in most people's memories from this area because it's such a big deal. And we had to wait then until recently to get the finish it.
Even though they won the championship this year, there will never be anything like that because the first time, it was the first time in the playoffs, and I just want to tell you that the fans were a huge, what made it so special was that the fans were such a huge part of it. An hour before the games, they'd be saying, "We want the Cavs, we want the Cavs." During those playoffs, the building shook. That's how loud. And Dick Snyder told me, he's the guy who won Game 7 with a shot at the end. He told me he had to put his fingers in his ears when he was sitting on the bench because the noise from the crowd was so loud his ears were hurting.
Oh my, it really was a miracle.
Yeah.
Whether you remember it and want to relive it, or like Roger, you missed out on that miracle season, you can discover it in his book, The Miracle of Richfield, the story of the 1975-76 Cleveland Cavaliers. My thanks to Roger for a winning wrap-up of that sensational season.
Thanks for having me.
To learn more or to order the book, call Kent State University Press at 800-247-6553 or visit their website, www.kentstateuniversitypress.com.